And we are live with another episode of the X-Men 97 Aftershow. This is that show brought to you by The Key, where we talk about this week and last week's, pretty much the final two episodes of the X-Men 97 sequel series to the X-Men 92 animated series. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera. We're here talking about episodes 9 and 10, which is Tolerance is Extinction Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. It's super confusing. There are so many numbers. There are X's and there are numbers. This show is algebra, you know? Like, X-Men 97, sequel to X-Men 92, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, episodes, whatever. Anyway, we got co-host Aaron Rhodes, a.k.a. King Krakoa. Aaron, what's up, man? Welcome back.
Hey, what's going on? It's a beautiful and lovely day to be a Homo superior out here, and I'm just basking in the greatness.
I'm glad to have you. It's been a couple weeks, and it's also not only that are we doing both episodes 9 and 10 today, but also we are like it's 6 days removed from the final episode that we saw. So like the idea is like we've let it cook. So anyone listening to this show, this podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, or if you're watching the live stream on twitch.tv/thekeeg show or youtube.com/thekeeg show, we've let this cook in our heads for 6 days before coming on this episode right now. So hopefully we're going to have some new nuggets of wisdom. This is specifically for the cartoon, but if you are looking forward to the X-Men comics, you can hear our takes on the X-Men comics. Every Thursday, we got Comic Talk, and once a month we have State of X, which is very specifically X-Men news. So, follow us on Instagram and TikTok and stuff to stay up to date with that. Our guest for today, we got Miss Marauder herself, Sara. Sara, what's up?
Hello. A newly minted X-Men fan, I would say.
What got you into X-Men? Because it's recent, you've been a complete geek, a complete dork for a while now. But like X-Men specifically, a lot of people are coming into it because like we haven't had like a mainstream X-Men thing for quite a long time.
Yeah, I watched the original movie, like the movies when they came out, those early 2000s. I've read, the only X-Men I had read was Uncanny X-Force, because Rick Remender, a writer who I love, did it, and I was like, I'll follow him anywhere.
I love that word.
I love him so much. But the X-Men were always just so intimidating, right? It just seems like it's one of those things where, I don't know, do I have to read this? Where do I hop in?
Yeah.
But then, Dimithri ambushed me at his home and gave me a stack of homework to read. After reading, the first one I read was God Loves, Man Kills. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I was actually kind of mad at myself. It was like, I can't believe I haven't read the X-Men before. I'll say it was Dimitri's incredibly curated stack of comics that were lines. And then from hearing from so many people that you could just hop into the show, that the show was very, beginner friendly. You don't
as an adult.
Yeah. And that was true, because I found myself really caring about these characters, which was a little. I was like, feel like I haven't earned the emotions that I'm feeling over these characters very much.
That's not on you. That's the show going above and beyond, right?
Yeah.
We actually met at we went to Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario last weekend, and there was a lot of X-Men 97 people there. A lot of the voice actors were there, and we actually talked to one of the storyboard artists. And he was like, oh yeah, I worked on the show. And I was like, okay, well, I can't believe you guys made me care about Gambit in such a short amount of time just to take him away from me. And he was like, well, now what you get to do is you get to read the comics and love him all the more. And I was like, oh, so it'll just end up hurting more and more.
Yeah. the thing
they just sent you to a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's kind of what X-Men is.
It is.
The thing about this episode in particular, like us on this podcast, this episode talking about other episodes, but like, you know what I mean? This podcast episode is that like, yeah, Aaron and I have been X-Men fans like for a while, right? Like we are like as old heads as our age can give us, you know?
Pretty much.
Like, to get older, you'd have to be older, I think, is what it is. But, like, and then having new fans, though, and having, like, people, again, who are in other geek corners that never really, like, had that, you know, like, the proper taste of X-Men.
Right.
I hate to say that, because, like, the X-Men movies have a very specific part in my heart. Like, it has a space in my heart, but that's only because when the X-Men movies were coming out, we didn't have, like, any X-Men related stuff.
Right. Superhero stuff was still rare at that time. So like we were just happy to get whatever scraps we were given,
Yeah.
especially X-Men. Yeah, we were here for it.
Yeah. It's kind of like how the Star Wars people felt with the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah.
Because that came out, what, between the first two movies? Between
Yes,
A New
actually, I
Hope
think
and
so.
Empire, right? Because it didn't happen after Empire, I know that. So it was like Star Wars Mania, where people were like, we're going to take any Star Wars thing we're going to get. Because we need more, but we can't get more for whatever reason. So people are like, yeah, Holiday Special means a lot to me. And it's like, well...
I still feel
Cool.
that way about Star Wars. I'm like, was it a good movie? I don't know. Were there lightsabers? Yes. Then I'm happy. Like, I'm just happy to be here. You
Yeah.
know, I obviously I'd like it to be good, but I'm just happy to be invited to the party.
Yeah. X-Men is kind of like that. And the fact that this series is aimed for adults, while kind of like literally being a continuation of a series that a lot of people just forget about anyway. I think it's interesting. Like, it was a wild swing to like create this.
Right, and it could have gone either way, honestly. Like, it could have been really horrible, and people would have honestly, I'm a mark for it. Like, I would have probably just been like, "Oh, it's amazing." It could have been trash, but like, but they really, you could tell they took the time to do the work for it, and not only that, they talked about, like we said in the beginning, like they talk about things that, we would always think like, oh, this is what the X-Men should be, and they actually went about it in such a way that we could all enjoy it. Like episode 5 was the big testament. Like, they made us like endear Genosha, love Genosha, and mourn Genosha in one episode. So like the fact that they took their time with this it's a labor of love for honestly.
Yeah. I think it's easy to say that I'll eat up anything X-Men, but truth be told, I was trying to think of what I haven't watched. You know that anime? There's an anime X-Men?
Yes. Yeah.
I
think I told you
it.
about that before.
I never watched
Oh,
it.
yes.
It's on Netflix, or it was on Netflix.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it is still on there.
I didn't bother with that. I was like, I don't...
Honestly, pretty good. Actually, it's a cute little like 6 episodes. It's a good little moment.
Okay.
It's
I haven't
a cute
seen
little
it.
moment.
I
You should
haven't
watch
seen
it.
it. Well, but
Right.
here's the thing, though. Now that we have X-Men 97, we know what can be given to us. We know what good
Yes.
food is. Why are we
Right.
like digging through the trash?
Okay, true.
Why do we need to watch
It's not
New
in the
Mutants over and over
trash.
again?
Oof, New Mutants. We just don't talk about Bruno. We just don't talk about Bruno when
I
it comes to New Mutants.
I watched the first few, and then I remember X3, and I remember being like, "Ugh." And then I went to see like an early screening of X-Men Apocalypse when it came out. And then I disliked it very much and was like, well, that's it for me. I was very like, that's curtains for me on X-Men. Like I'm
like
chill.
those.
Like
I feel
but they put
bad.
Maybe it's because I didn't know. Maybe if I had an X-Men knowledge, I would have appreciated it more. It just seemed like there were a lot of characters they brought in to have like one line, and I was like, you didn't.
Oh yeah.
Anything.
They didn't utilize.
Yeah.
But how many times does Star Wars do that? Babu Freak!
I love. How dare you?
He just does one thing. That's okay.
But at least he's merchandisable. At least he can make a toy.
I mean, X-Men should be X-Men should be toyetic, which was.
I was about to say one thing X-Men is gonna do. They're gonna make a buck. They're gonna make some merchandising money.
even the boring ass X-Men movie suits like had action figures, which was weird. It was like,
literally.
But they made him do things. It would be like, okay, boring Toad, but he like spat out a little plastic piece, and it was like, all right, cool. You know,
maybe if I search my feelings, I'll find that it's really that they put a bunch of makeup on Oscar Isaac, so I couldn't see his face the whole film.
I'm not arguing with
I
you
think
about
that's what
X-Men
we're all
Apocalypse.
truly upset about. I think
There are a lot of bad choices in that movie, but I'll be honest, I like
I
X-Men
didn't hate it.
Apocalypse better than I like X-Men 3.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and you, we like a lot of the ones that nobody really like. Like I didn't hate X on The Last Stand. Like
I didn't
I thought
hate on
it was cute.
it was a letdown as a
Cute.
kid. I was I was in high school and it was a
Right.
letdown. And I
But
was
you have
like,
X3 and then you have Spider-Man 3 and then you start to be like, I guess this is just what the third movie is.
right, well,
Like I guess the second one is the first one is good.
yeah.
The second one's the best, and the third one is
Well,
a little bit
Steve-
of hot garbage. Happened with Dark Knight. It happened, that's kind of the
did.
way it goes.
Some people
That
think
was
though, some people think that the
actually,
second movie is not as good. Like in general, first movies are better than second movies. Like some people think it
Right.
just declines. But then other people, I'm a big fan of second movie. Like I
Yeah.
love that rise once you get done with the origin story. That being said,
Right.
we're all old enough. I don't know if you guys remember, like it was the talk of the internet message boards that there's no such thing as a good trilogy. And like this was back in the day.
Yeah.
This
Mhm,
was,
yeah.
but that's because people were haters. Like people hated on Return of the Jedi, so then that
Yeah.
was them being like, yeah, there's no such thing as a good trilogy. Return of the Jedi is not good, so thus, you know what I mean? Like there's no good 3
Mhm.
movies. They would point out to Back to the Future, Godfather, all that, and I think it also made them just hate a third movie just by being
Yeah.
a third movie.
Yeah.
Right.
But taking it back to this show, now we got Tolerance is Extinction parts 2 and 3, which cap off this season. And to let you guys know, to refresh your memories of like where we left off after Tolerance is Extinction part 1, Magneto breaks out. He does the electromagnetic pulse. All the Prime Sentinels are like hunting after everybody. We got the cool teleporter scene from Nightcrawler, all that amazing stuff. Magneto lets it rip, and now we're in episode 9. Is this... did anyone think this is where this season was going?
At all. Honestly, I knew it was going to lead to a big fight, but I didn't expect how grandiose and how much it would open up for the next season for me. Because I know like me, like others, we have a lot of theories, but like I didn't. I thought that we're going to go the more the loves man kills route, but I honestly didn't. I did not hate this at all.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
But Sarah,
I mean, I had no idea where we were going at any point. I was like, at one point when they were like Asteroid M, I was like, what is that? Like I was watching
you'll figure it out.
I do appreciate the way that they were very like, here's what you need to know, and here's what you could just go along for the ride. Like, I was like, is Asteroid M like give mutants their power? Like, what is this? And I was like, or is it just an app? I was like, you know what? I don't need to know that right now. I'm just gonna watch the fight, right?
Just wait 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, stop asking questions. Or like at the very end of part 3, when they were like, he said his name, and I was like, oh, someone knows who that is. I don't. But someone knows. And then immediately they were like, oh, it's who, and I'm like, oh yes, okay.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, it's Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah, yes, right.
Which is not a good way
Right.
of doing comparing Apocalypse to his portrayal in that movie. Not great. I think there are a couple design flaws in the movie.
Oh no, for sure. He looks like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers.
There's a couple
for sure.
It's not only the coloring, and it can be, but
it's not just that.
To me, it's two things in the movie. It's his striation, like the line that comes down here. It should connect right here.
Yes.
But it connects here, and then comes
like
up.
a
So
sideburn.
it looks like a
Like a
weird
lamb chop.
brownie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then
Right,
second is he has these like pipes that come this way. And they look like, I don't know what they look like, but they look weird. They like start here and they kind of go forward to his chest instead of like back. I don't know. The design at the end of this season in that like final scene where he's in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Super kick ass. Why didn't they just do that? Why didn't they get a? I mean, Oscar Isaac could have gotten buff. He'd be above Oscar Isaac with a spear, like shirtless. There we go. Everybody wins. You know.
Right.
Shout out to Aries13 out there on Twitch. Thank you so much. Anyone out there on Twitch or YouTube, let us know you're out there. You know. Thank you to Aries13. I mean, we got a lot of stuff in these final 2 episodes, right? So what ends up happening is that a couple of things. So we start off the episode realizing that like Magneto has essentially killed thousands of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Misstep or not misstep? Because people love to say Magneto is right, and I like to put a little small asterisk when I represent like Magneto's right. Magneto was sometimes right, or mostly
he had a point. I always say Magneto has a point.
Yeah,
you know, like that's the best way to put it. Like Magneto has a point, like because you can't fully like support him, you know, genociding a whole world, but like you can understand where he's come from, like, and it goes back to one of the things you were saying that you were like, I don't want to see Magneto go to just being evil again, but it also plays into every time Magneto has gone evil, he's had a point. Like, you know, like, and this is one of those big ones where like you understand where he's going, but where he's coming from and why he's doing it, but the way he's going about it is horrible once again. Because you're kind of just like perpetuating the trauma that you went through, even though like I said before, they kind of just re-traumatized him all over again with Genosha, and like putting him in another genocide of his people. So like you can understand, but it's still not right, you know.
I think Magneto's really good for like the mission statement, you know, like give us a good, but like the execution of it, like let him write the cookbook, don't let him cook, you know.
Yes.
Give us some.
You ate on that one. You definitely ate on that one. I appreciate that one.
You know,
there's a comedian, I think his name is Dimithri Martin, that he does a joke where he says, you always see really aggressive graffiti, and he wants to see like uncommitted graffiti, like Toy Story 2 was okay. So I like Magneto has some good points sometimes. Magneto's not wrong 100% of the time.
Right.
Magneto has some valid points, but I fear the way he's going about it is not advisable. Like put that on a poster.
I need that to be on a poster.
I'm all for repping Magneto until he starts going off the deep end. And I know that some people out there love to be edgy X-Men fans being like, that's what happens. But it's like, I mean...
come on, guys.
No.
Really?
No. I don't know. So...
I mean, he ripped Wolverine's skeleton out of his body?
Yeah.
That I think is deserved.
Adamantium?
That I think is deserved. I will on record say Wolverine deserved that.
Magneto said he was trying to kill me. Like, you know, I feel that.
He stuck his claws right through him, and he could literally see it come out the other end.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yes. Wolverine deserved
that's like
that.
putting cheese in front of a rat and being like, it ate the cheese. Yeah, he did stab him with metal.
Right.
Like, come on.
It was still pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would be so upset. I would be mad off principle that the fact that that Wolverine keeps coming at me knowing he's made of metal, and I'm like, you act like this can't be over in 5 seconds, and I keep letting you go. Like, all right, I'm gonna let you go off this warning, and then he excuse my language, fucked around and found out, and and this is the end result, and now I'm kind of can't wait to see what kind of Wolverine we get next season.
I think though that like I don't know. Wolverine took it one step too far, to the point where, like, maybe he needed to do that, right? Maybe Magneto needed to die.
He needed to do that.
But I'm just saying, like, once you cross that line, don't like.
That's it.
It's the guys that go to the bar and they try to fight the bouncer, and they get one sock in, and the bouncer like picks them up and throws them. yeah, you deserved it. Like, why
Facts.
are you doing this?
If you light the flame, you're gonna get the smoke. Like
Yeah,
it's really quite that simple. Like
like
it will always come. Like every
So
time.
what I hear you saying is Magneto's right some of the time and has some valid points.
He,
yes.
I mean,
We
I
I
occasionally support Magneto.
Magneto is seen and he is heard.
I just think it's funny that Wolverine's classic, like, pick on someone your own size, bub. And then he just gets thrown. It's like, okay, yeah,
Oh,
you know?
he's a little baby.
Um, I don't know who. Oh, yeah, Ares 13 says, how dare he use his abilities defensively to protect himself from dying? Like, yeah, it's not like Magneto, when he put the helmet onto Xavier's head, he crushed it and exploded his head.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's a little too far, right? Like,
Yeah,
because
that would have been okay. A
because
skosh too far.
the helmet stopped his psychic powers
Right.
anyway, so you don't need to kill him. Like, that's going a step too
Exactly.
far. But, like, Wolverine stabbed him.
I will say, maybe because I am uneducated, I thought that would have killed Wolverine. I in that moment at the end of that episode, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, Wolverine's
No.
dead. And then people were like, well, no, that didn't
His healing factor.
do any good for him, but he still has the healing factor. I was like, okay, I thought he was gone.
In the comics, yes, sure, he has his healing factor, and his healing factor wasn't as good back in the comics at that point.
Yeah.
That later he got vaporized into a skeleton and like regrows. Cool. But like before that, he was a healer, not like a
Right.
regenerator. To the point where
Right.
like Age of Apocalypse universe, that timeline, he has a stump for a hand.
Exactly.
Because he can't regenerate a hand. He can
Mhm.
heal it. Like, so his power is a little bit different. But essentially what happens is literal, like, it's like getting your bone marrow removed. It's like the adamantium is in his bones and it gets pulled out and it
Right.
puts them essentially into shock. So what's up to EJ Play Games out there? It puts him into shock, right? Like Wolverine's in shock, but he has healing powers that can combat that, but it's such a traumatic
Right.
event.
Yeah, it sends his mind to like a berserker stage in the comics.
Yeah, he turns into like a feral, you know,
Mhm.
little troll.
Literally, yeah, that's exactly what
You
it is.
know?
Actually, yeah, he.
Yeah, we're going ahead, but like, yeah, I mean, we're going to kind of like flip around, you know, and skip around and everything. Anyone out there who has questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, EJ, I saw your question. There are questions that we got on Instagram.
Ooh.
We will be covering during this episode, but this episode starts off with the characters. Jubilee and Sunspot are running from a mob. All the power's been shut down. People are like robbing and looting stuff. And then Forge and Storm come in to save Jubilee, which I thought was cool. Also, I'm a big fan of Forge and Storm together. Like,
I can see that for you.
like I like them together. I don't think they're brought up enough because their comic history is a little complicated, but like in a new adaptation, why can't we put those two together? I'm of the people may or may not get mad. I've said it before. Like, I don't like Black Panther with Storm.
Yeah.
I love Black Panther, but I also think
Right.
that Storm deserves better. And
No, for sure.
Aaron and I have talked about this.
Right, we had talked about this at length. Right. Right.
Um,
We both agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's she can do way better than him, and
Right.
we just don't want that.
Right. I mean, hot take is, well, no. Aaron, who's your craziest pairing with Storm that you wouldn't mind?
The craziest one? That's funny. Let's see. You know what? I've had one before, and I can't think of their name. But honestly, I'm okay with the Wolverine and Storm moment, to be
Wolverine,
honest.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like I don't hate them together. Like, Like I prefer them sometimes, especially him with Jean or him with Storm. I prefer him with Storm.
Yeah. There was an episode that ties in with this, Sarah. An episode of the X-Men '92 show where Bo DeMaio, he said basically, like it's homework if you want to do the homework, but basically, he gave an episode. It's called One Man's Worth, Part 1 and Part 2, and basically because of Xavier dying in the past, like Nimrod goes back into the future, back in time, kills Xavier, and it causes this alternate timeline where like Storm and Wolverine are like freedom fighters and they're in love. And in the end, they give up that timeline, even though they're in love.
Right.
They give it up to create the get back to the normal timeline. It's super sad, but I
was gonna say, that sounds like it's going to make me cry.
It'll give you a tear.
Yeah. Like it didn't.
You'll cut your heart a few times.
Cry. I think the only
way. Aaron, you don't know me very well. You don't know how easily I cry.
I
okay, so you were just like me, Sarah.
God.
So when it comes to like, for some reason, movies and TVs, I'm a whole make bitch when it comes to certain things, and I will sit there and cry from both eyes. So, like, and yeah. So
Did
you'll
you
probably, if you're like me,
then,
yeah, I'm a whole McBitch. Yeah, I do what's called a bitch cry, where I cry from both sides of my eyes. It's a whole thing. So yeah, if you're a little bit of a McBitch like me, then you're gonna clutch your heart at least, and it's okay. I'm here with you.
We get a lot of moments in these two episodes that like bring me to tears a little bit, and it basically, I mean, I've talked about it before that like what makes me cry is when what like characters do before they die or before they think they're gonna die, even if they don't die. So like,
right, the heartfelt moments.
So we get a lot of really good moments in this, like when after this big old fight with Bastion and all that stuff there, and like the UN decides to just nuke Asteroid M, where Cyclops and Jean Grey talk to Cable as like a final goodbye.
Oh my gosh, I teared up on that. Definitely clutched my heart on that one. I was sitting there when she showed him the eye, when he said, "Your mother said we had the same eyes," and she showed him. I was like, I was just sitting there, just like, oh no, this is happening. And I do love a good heartfelt moment like that. Even the moment where Jean talks to Nightcrawler about Madeline, and about their memories, merging together and not knowing.
In
episode 9.
Extinction Part 1. Yeah, Part 1, right?
No, is that
episode
I
8?
thought that was no, that is, he does talk to her when he's with Rogue, but there's another one when he talks to her about let me see, when they're talking about her connection with Madeline and Cable, feeling like she's connected to him. Yeah, like those moments I loved. I live for.
Yeah. Sarah, how were these last two episodes like resonating with you as like a new X-Men fan?
It definitely felt like there was some stuff that went over my head, but I liked that everyone got, when you were talking about the thing that gets you is what they do right before they die. My favorite thing is when like an underestimated character gets a moment to kick ass.
Yes.
And the Jubilee moment, and I already love Jubilee like regularly. So the Jubilee moment where it was like, what are you gonna do? Defeat me with the 4th of July? And then she like and
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, like that was like so
moment.
good. Like that little moment of like, what is this little puny chick gonna do? And then she like kicks ass. I'm like, I love stuff like that. Like it's such a almost corny little moment, but it rings.
It is, but I love it.
So delightful.
Right.
And even the like, we're gonna reason with you, right? We don't want to defeat you. Like that's not the whole thing that we go for here in the X-Men. That felt like a very, as someone that's new to the X-Men, that seemed like a mission statement that they were giving out, right? Like this isn't what we do. We don't fight the future. We embrace the future. And then the cynicism of Bastion to be like, that's cute, you guys. Like, and they're like, well, this is the thing that we do. Like,
We
this
tried.
is what we're doing. Yeah, we
Right.
tried.
Like,
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I feel like out of anything in this whole series, or this whole, like, even these, like, this finale, that has split people, is the idea that, like, in the middle of just womping on someone or getting womped, to be like, no, let's just be friends.
right.
How do you guys actually feel about this? Because the X-Men aren't always about that, right? The X-Men are
Right.
about second chances, but the X-Men are also like, you pull a gun on me, I shoot
Squad
first.
up.
Like, I shoot
Right.
first, right? Like, there's no problem with
Me
Han
and the team.
shooting first, right? Oh yeah, we're all rolling up to curb stomping.
We're all rolling up
It
on you,
doesn't
right? You got a gun.
matter.
The whole team is coming up on you, and that's okay.
It's like, you cross the line, and we will literally, like, throw a WMD at you. Like, that's just
Real talk.
because
Yeah.
you crossed that line. But, like, in this, they were like, how about, like, Bastion, you could have been one of us. You could have been one of the founding X-Men. Like,
Right.
it's not too late, blah, blah, blah. You are a mutant just like us. How are you feeling about that?
Sir, do you want to answer that one first?
Yeah, I mean, again, with no knowledge, I feel like it's the nice amount of corny. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like people that don't like it, not to be like people that don't like it are wrong, but I feel like there is like a natural cynicism to be, like, okay, we're stopping and asking to be friends, but it's not like, they came and offered him a Pepsi, right? Like, that wasn't, it was
Right.
like,
I hug you, now you're better. Like,
yeah. Let me put a flower in your, like, yeah, but it seemed like they did such a great job of setting up Cyclops as a character that when he did that, you were like, yep, this is a thing that makes complete sense for this character to be doing. Like,
yes.
and for everyone, and they set him up so well as a leader that's like, and everyone on the team is like, yep, like, we're gonna let
Right.
we're deferring to you, like, and the whole idea of like calling a timeout and being like, time out, like, let's talk
That
about it.
was
Like,
kind
we
of
didn't
funny.
have time to reason before we started fighting, but now that we've been kicking each other's ass for 20 minutes, you could have, and that idea of like reaching out with kindness, I mean, it's a corny kind of heartfelt thing, but I don't think that's necessarily inherently like a
Right, a
bad thing.
bad thing.
Yeah, it felt
Yeah.
like an earned moment. It felt like an earned moment.
That exactly it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. As long as I can deal with the cheesy moment or corny moment, as long as it's an earned moment. Like, especially like things like this, like you can tell, because the whole big thing with the machines, with the mutants, is they always win. They always find a way to win. They fight and they win. And they either win or the mutants lose. So I feel like this was an earned moment where we like, well, hey, how about we just discuss the problem first and see where we can go from here. And like we get that moment of them talking about it, and then of course we find out that Bastion's recollection of like what happened is different than what actually happened, when he finds out, of course, that that professor actually did want him to be a part of the original X-Men. And we kind of get this moment where he's starting to understand what's going on. I feel like sometimes that's the only way you can go, especially in certain moments like this, where it's kind of like a end all be all, where you're like, how do we get out of this? Sometimes the only thing you can do, cheesy enough, is talk about it and see where you can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I get, like, you got to change your strategy if your thing's not working, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That being said, like, I don't know, it's complicated for me. Like, when it's, like, if you're watching Steven Universe, I love Steven Universe, the goal of that is to show that this little child doesn't have to keep fighting. Like, he can talk about his problems. Like, you don't need that as, like, a trauma response, right? But, like, at the same time, Bastion, to me, showed no redeemable qualities whatsoever.
Yeah, true.
Magneto
Facts.
does.
Okay.
So you give Magneto multiple chances because you feel that all it takes is one breakthrough. One, like, if he can believe that he can survive, that he can actually, like, thrive somewhere, he'll protect that, but he won't necessarily be, like, bloodlusted for it, right?
For sure.
So it's a little tough because Bastion really only cared about his mom, and even then he
Yeah,
made his mom into a Sentinel. So like, okay,
facts. I think it's the more so the fact I think the only part where I feel sympathy from him, especially, is the part where they talk about, oh, his basically how his mother lied to him and basically like didn't tell him about the professor thing, because like, let's be real, that lie is what started his whole cascade of, being who he is now. And also you have to and also it's the, I was born from Nimrod, I'm technically Nimrod's like son, so like, it's kind of nurture and nature at the same time working against him.
yeah,
So that's the only way I see it. But also I see what you mean, like especially when it comes to Magneto. Magneto has redeemable qualities, but we've only known Bastion as the evil, guy who wants to do away with mutants altogether. So that's where I'm like, if you die, like, yes, he can't. I feel like he should have an opportunity, but like, I'm not tripping if he died. Like,
I was just like, I don't like this guy. I also don't like the humans involved.
yeah,
Like
flat scans all of them.
they're just all like. I also, I mean, we'll get into the cameos. I mean, might as well right now. I don't like the Avengers. I don't like. People were like, well, so Captain America and Iron Man during this whole thing are just there to like protect the president. Um, but they're not out there
Yeah,
in America like stopping people
trying to
from
stop
like
the missile, maybe.
or stopping. Well,
No.
no, they were pro. Seemed to me they were
They
pro
were
missile.
technically they were
Pro
against it.
missile.
They were a part of the meeting, but they were against it.
Were they against it? Did they
Like,
vote? Did they
yeah,
get a
Steve.
vote?
That's the big thing, because I saw Steve. Because Steve looked disappointed when he walked away, like after they made the decision. But then I was thinking, I'm like, wait, what are y'all? Do y'all even get a vote for it? That's exactly the thought process I was thinking too. I was like, are y'all just there to just be in the room, or like,
I don't think they got a vote. Like, why
oh
would
god,
they? But also,
like,
they might as well
so y'all
just
just
been
there?
like the president's secret service.
That's exact. Yeah, because you
Like
did nothing. You did absolutely nothing.
you didn't, and like you could shake your head and like I don't know. Sarah, were you gonna say something?
No.
Okay, because Cap to me, there's been multiple adaptations of Cap, right?
Yeah,
And like there are really good adaptations of Cap. I love Chris Evans Cap. I like the MCU Cap.
yes,
I
it's
like the
perfect. Cap
comic book Cap. Um, there is a Cap though
sometimes.
that like in certain adaptations, the idea that like the UN agreed to nuke asteroid M and Captain America's like, well, I guess I got outvoted.
If that's what
Like
America
you
wants,
guys chose what you chose and I'm just not happy about it.
you're
There's
right. Oh
like
darn.
that's what he's like. Oh, you could say like, oh, this guy's a great man because he feels for the people, but then also he doesn't go out and
Right.
stop it. Then there's the Captain America in the comics who would have been like, I'm literally gonna
Nah.
stop you from pulling the trigger. So
Right.
I am going to leap over the table and stop that communication from happening, and we
Uh,
will figure this out.
Do you think that the portrayal of Captain America, and this is just from what I see on the internet, I don't know if you guys know, but I don't read many X-Men comics.
Yeah.
Do you think the portrayal of the portrayal of Cap is like intentional as a foil to Cyclops? Because I hear a lot of people say like Cap is the cop that you think that Cyclops is. Like I've heard
Oh my
that
god.
discourse of like people like the original X-Men movies kind of made Cyclops seem like a a wet blanket kind of guy, but really Cap is more like that. Like
Kinda.
Cyclops is actually more principled. And sometimes Cap is the one staying in the way with the bureaucracy. So do you think that he was characterized that way intentionally in the show? Because if you made him more principled, then he would seem just like Cyclops. Or do you think he wasn't in the show enough to have that consideration?
Here's the thing. Comic books have been around for decades. And within those decades, multiple writers, multiple artists, then they would like there are guest writers that like come in that don't really know the character that will mischaracterize a character by writing it. So we get all these like different little bits and takes. And then when there's an adaptation, whoever that one sole person who's like showrunner on that adaptation, they're picking and choosing and creating cohesive vision out of all these bits and pieces. So
Right.
technically that one showrunner's vision is the most cohesive. It doesn't necessarily mean the best, but it means it's the most cohesive. Bryan Singer's X-Men, Bo DeMaio's X-Men 97, like they have a cohesive kind of like idea and vision. You can borrow from different points of Cap's history in which like slightly different motivations in different times, right? But same goes with Cyclops. Like sometimes Cyclops is boring. Sometimes a writer doesn't know what to do with Cyclops. The X-Men movies are a case, but then also like Cyclops isn't the most interesting person up until like I don't know. I've never been a Cyclops fan up
Utopia
until
era for me.
what's up?
I think Utopia era, Young X-Men, when the
Yeah,
original X-Men came back
like
type thing. I think that's when.
2010s,
Yeah,
2005 maybe.
2009, 2000. Yes, I'm about to say 2005 probably.
Like after House of M,
Yes, exactly.
you
After House of
know.
M. Yeah.
Maybe even Astonishing X-Men, like I do like
That was
Whedon's
his start.
run, you
That
know.
was the start of it. Yeah, for sure.
But like whatever. But the point being is that like yeah, I mean, in actuality, Cap and Cyclops should be very similar, except Cap's jurisdiction is like primarily Earth, sometimes space, and
Yes.
Cyclops is mutants on Earth.
I have to hop out for just a second.
Yeah, mutants in space, right? Like their
Yeah.
jurisdiction is different. But if it's best case scenarios, Cap is a freedom fighter like Cyclops is, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of both though. Especially when it comes to Cyclops and Captain. I do feel like they do use Captain America is kind of like a foil to him and kind of contrasts Cyclops because Cyclops, because of those portrayals that Cyclops had in the movies, now everybody does think like he's just a by the book kind of nerdy, and he is like that. He was like that, especially in the beginning of his runs. But like you can tell, but he's always been for the mutants and doing what needs to be done, if it comes to it.
Right.
I think they kind of play off each other, and they kind of sometimes they play the same side of a different side of the same coin kind of with it, like because both of them are so much alike, but it's the way they go about certain things that are different. They're especially in the way that Cap deals with humans and the way that Scott deals with with the mutants
Yeah.
altogether. Because Scott, the one thing I think that Scott always has over Cap is the fact that Scott will go out of his way to do a lot more, like if there was a missile coming for like a bunch of humans, like Scott would stop that, like no matter what his like country thought that they should do, right?
Right.
And whereas Scott, I mean, where Captain America kind of plays to, I just follow order. I'm just trying to follow orders, and I'm trying to be,
Which is how
the good
is in
soldier.
this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this characterization of Captain America, I can understand if people don't like it. And I'm not here to claim that this characterization of Captain America is Captain America. But
Right,
it is
is right.
Captain America in the context of this series. Like,
Exactly.
and maybe we're only seeing it from the mutants' point of view, but like also this Cap, I how do I put this? Cap was in World War II, and in the comics, he froze before the war was over.
I was just about to say, yeah, I think that plays. I think that plays a part into it.
He froze before the war was over, so we don't technically know most adaptation of Cap's opinion on whether we should have dropped the bombs or not. But the one in this series would have been like, I don't agree with it, and then also not done anything to stop them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And like I'm thinking like maybe this is like an early on like I just got out of the ice kind of like maybe 10 years ago type thing. So like, he'll of course, like, he's just he's straight into out of the military. Of course, you're gonna follow orders, so maybe
Yeah.
that might play it into it. But
By the way,
I
this
think,
show takes place in real time. I don't know if you
yeah,
realize that. Is that X-Men 92, the first episode, technically, I mean, according to kind of what they were
it
saying
was 5 years. Yeah.
in this episode, it started in 92, and this takes place in
Hmm.
97.
Right.
So, you know,
They go literally 5 years after
it's
the first episode. I love that.
it's been 5 years of mutant antics, but not like the X-Men started before that, right? But the episodes of
Hmm.
Night of the Sentinels Part 1, that takes place in
Yes.
92. Like, it takes place when it was created. So I think that's interesting. So Cap probably, I wouldn't be surprised if Cap was only unfrozen for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know?
That would make sense, honestly. Yeah. That would
Yeah.
honestly make a lot more sense.
I want to
Ooh.
bring up something that also Sarah hasn't read it, so like it doesn't really like Sarah will come back, but we can talk about this. X-Men versus the Avengers, right? In the comics,
Yeah.
EJ Plays Games says, I feel bad for Captain America. And I do too, because this adaptation isn't the perfect Cap that I would like to
Yeah.
see. But he
Right.
does kind of create some sort of like opposition, essentially. But
Yes,
EJ Plays Games,
exactly.
hopefully we get an X-Men versus Avengers soon. I would love, I don't want here's the thing. I'm very pro X-Men over Avengers. The only
Yeah.
reason the Avengers are as popular nowadays as they are is because they weren't popular, that they couldn't get the rights sold. So then the MCU had the rights to make great movies from not great characters, not popular characters. And the MCU made them into household names, but at the same time, like,
Hmm.
I'm X-Men over Avengers any day. Like,
All day.
if you put the two up against each other, like, you
It's
better
not even
spin me a
competition.
yarn on why the X-Men don't deserve to win.
Real talk, exactly. Like, you got to really sell me on Avengers, because like that's like, because all I'm hearing is cop, 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 cop,
I'm
police.
I like, okay, we could say cop, we can say not, people argue that they're not cops. They are they
Maybe
firefighters,
now they
whatever,
aren't.
but like, here's the thing is that in the end they're just hypocrites because they don't
Yeah.
help they don't help mutants. They just want to police
They don't help
them.
everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just want to
And
police
that's
them.
why they'll always lose. Exactly. That's why they will always, always lose. Like, they'll like, because yeah, you want to help Earth, you want to be Earth's mightiest heroes, but like I've said this before, Avengers are not Earth's mightiest heroes. The X-Men are Earth's mightiest heroes.
Yeah.
Like, they help everybody, and not only from domestic, but from intergalactic threats as well. And
Yeah.
like, and it's like you said, like like Captain America, they don't do the outside, like they don't do the intergalactic stuff, like, but the like
Well, they try
Superman,
to. I mean, there's the Kree Skrull
sometimes,
War.
unless they're like all together, right? Unless
Yeah.
like, but Cap is never gonna lead the forefront of that. You know what I
No.
mean?
Yeah. So my thing is that, like, if the Avengers show up in this show, first thing, I'm gonna automatically hate them, and
Yeah.
second thing, I'm afraid they're gonna pull the spotlight from the mutants that this show is about.
I was scared of that, but honestly, I think they did a pretty good job with the episodes they do with Captain America, and like even with their little cameos in this episode,
That
in
was
the
fine.
last
That
two
was
episodes.
cameos, but if we got an Avengers versus
True.
X-Men 3-parter,
I think they would take the time. I think they would. I think they would do it. They would take the time to make it at least good enough. Honestly, that's why I always say like they should do another Avengers show. Like, that would be a good little crossover, little mess episode thing for them. I think that would be the only way to really give it what it needs, because Avengers versus X-Men, because I feel like that's one of those things where you have to get a full perspective of the Avengers and a full perspective of the X-Men, and then come together with it. So
if you
yeah, I
ask
don't
me,
know.
there should be 3 retro sequel series. Spider-Man should be brought back.
Of course.
They should create a new, because technically the Avengers cartoon that was back in the 90s did not take place in this universe.
Yeah.
So for the first ever time, Avengers series that takes place in this continuity.
Yes.
Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. And then in the confines of those shows, be diverse with your storytelling. Like,
Right.
because it seems very like, oh, Spider-Man, X-Men, Avengers sounds very boring, but like, tell some creative new stuff
That part.
with the characters that are on the Avengers team that, like, we don't
Hmm.
know.
Because the last
Um,
Avengers show was actually pretty good, so I think they can do it.
Spider-Man ended in 1998, January 31st, 1998. Spider-Man could do a series called Spider-Man 98.
I was just about to say Spider-Man 98.
And
Literally, yeah.
crazy idea, just do Avengers 2000. Like, you know what I
Honestly,
mean? Like,
can't go
it's
wrong.
like, think about,
Yeah.
like, just marketing point of view. We got, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So 97, 98, I guess
Yeah.
Avengers 99, but I don't really want, like, whatever. Point being is that, like, Kang the Conqueror's coming to the break of the 20th century, like 21st century, right?
Right.
Like play around with that, Um
Yeah.
Sarah's not back yet, but like we'll keep talking and whatnot. If EJ play games. I really hope we get Spider-Man 98. Yeah, it'd be super cool.
Yeah. See, I never was a Spider-Man person that much, so I
I
never got to
was,
get into it.
I
See,
was Spider-Man, X-Men were the two cartoons that I watched first. Even
mm,
Batman was slightly behind that. Like Batman the animated series was slightly behind because I think Batman the
okay.
animated series was a nighttime show, so I
Yeah.
didn't get to watch
Yeah.
it until it moved to daytime. It
They
was
came
like a
on like right
prime
before Adult
time
Swim and
cartoon,
stuff. Yeah.
you
They used to come
know.
on like, yeah, what show? That was Cartoon Network, yeah.
Well, later, right? But like
Later on,
it
yeah,
was
for
on
sure.
Fox first. Batman the animated series started off on Fox at night. It was like a
Mm,
nighttime prime time
that I
show.
didn't know.
Yeah.
That,
So it started off on Fox and then it moved over. Um yeah, I'll try to. Yeah, oh, it originally aired on Fox Kids September 5th, 1992. I could be wrong about the nighttime thing. No, maybe it was daytime stuff, but like,
you know what
oh
you
yeah.
thought I was thinking of? It came on because it came on Cartoon Network at night.
Oh, maybe it's that why I'm
That's probably what it was.
getting
Yeah,
that mixed
it
up.
came on like a little bit before it's in the before Adult Swim.
Okay. But like, yeah, so basically I was watching Spider-Man. Like, I remember distinctly when people used to ask me who my favorite superhero was, it was Spider-Man
Mm,
when I was a kid. Like, but it turned to X-Men real quick.
oh, fast.
Like real
Like,
quick. You know?
oh, hmm and because it's not many like they have storylines. Like everybody, like every character is fleshed out to where like you understand and you want to get to know them more. And like you don't like there's like origin stories. Like I'm sorry, but they're not doing it like X-Men. Like just they I mean like yeah and they do some of the similar things that X-Men do, converting villains into heroes and stuff, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver being that prime example. But like come on, I think the X-Men have more of a track record. Like
We do see them, by the way. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
I
So
thank you, I was waiting, I was like we need to
yeah.
talk about that.
For anyone watching this episode, like because this is like a week removed from this episode 10, like I guess we're not going like bit by bit in order, but we're I guess we're just jumping around. But the point being is when Magneto is dealing with all that psychic stuff in that room with Xavier, like
Hmm.
he shows the boat, and on the boat is Rogue in the forefront. You can see Rogue very well lit, and
Clearly.
behind Rogue is Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the shadow,
And
and then
Polaris.
Polaris in the shadow, which
Yeah.
like I need to see some of that because like
Yeah.
they're Magneto's children. I don't give a fuck.
Right. Exactly. I need them to bring that up next season. Like that needs to be a topic that they need to at least glance over, talk about somewhat, because I need to see at least one of those damn kids. Y'all not just gonna pass by that moment and then give us that little like because like some people didn't see it. Like some people didn't see them in the background. I'm like, how could you not? I instantly saw the capes flying and I was like, is that who I instantly loved every moment of that. But that little scene, because that whole scene with in that first part of getting to see them like how they met and whatnot,
Yeah,
I particularly enjoyed.
yeah,
Like I thought that was a good little moment of like getting to know or because we don't really get to see that much. Like we don't get to see them
No,
like
it's
get to
weird.
see how the dream started.
It's very interesting because like yeah, sure, sometimes we see in the comics like bits and pieces, but like the comics never really had like a prequel series to like really flesh
Yeah,
out, like unlike
who
Batman's
they were.
origins. You know how like Batman's origins, Superman's origins, where they'll do a new mini series every like 5
Yeah.
years, which will like retell the origin story. Like
Mm-hmm.
X-Men normally does it in like flashbacks, so it's like really like sparse, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but it's funny how much in continuity we get, how much continuity we get from the X-Men movies, because
Yeah.
X Men First Class talks about like when they first met and this kind of thing, and it's a lot different than the comics, but at least we
For
get
sure.
the beginning, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I mean, because I don't want to keep all the juicy bits for Sarah to come back. Sarah will be back when she gets back, but um, Magneto and Xavier, did you get vibes from them?
Big vibes.
Did you?
All caps.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a lot of vibes on that, especially the big moment when he's holding him as the literal memories are flooding in, like it that whole thing. And then there's one thing that he says, like as he's starting to remember, as Magneto's starting to remember what happened, and he says to him, when he sees Rogue, and he's like, she broke my heart. And then he remembers, he said, you broke my heart. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, y'all used to be, y'all was roommates.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it one way or another. My big problem is that how did Xavier date a guy who is now dating Rogue? Like, how are Xavier and Rogue linked sexually? Like, it's weird to me.
I
And
don't
that's,
think they'll be.
you know
I
what I
think they're
mean?
just Eskimo brother and sister. They
Wait,
just had sex with the same person.
no,
They
that's what I'm
just
trying
that's
to
all it
say. That's
was.
what I'm trying to say. But, like, that's weird to me, though. Like, how are
Oh no,
they,
very.
you know what I mean? Like, through
Yeah, yeah,
Magneto's
yeah.
whole life. So
What's the dynamic there?
he's with someone age appropriate, which would be Xavier, and then later with like just this really young girl. And I'm like,
That's
look, I
strong
get it
bisexual
when
energy.
you're super buff and you're like you know you're a handsome silver fox kind of guy. Like
You
maybe
know,
your age range is a little bit broader. Maybe, and also
right?
he was in World War II and he looks like that. Great, good for him.
You know,
Maybe he can date someone 30 years younger. But Rogue's not 30 years younger.
but I
Rogue's
feel like
way.
she's probably like what 20 more years younger than them because they're not that old still. Like I mean, it's still the
They're.
'90s,
Oh
so
yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked about this, right?
right, right. So
We
they're not
did
right. They
talk
should
about
probably be
this.
yeah. So she should probably be like probably if anything at most 20 years older than them because I feel like because they're not that older off from the X-Men.
And,
So
yeah. So anyone out there, do our calculations for us.
right,
This
do
is
math. Like
97, and let's just say in 1940, Magneto was 10.
right,
Let's just say because he had to have used his powers in the camps. So that means he's born
true,
in
true.
1930. So now he's 67.
Right.
But
He was he was a kid when he went to the camps.
Rogue's
No,
still
for sure.
25.
Oh no, it's still skeevy for sure. It just makes it a
Let's just say she's
little tiny bit more
27.
palatable.
27 seems old for Rogue, but let's just say, I mean, she's been on this team
I
for
feel like
5
27 is a
years.
good age for her right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. So 27 to 67, that's 40 years.
The optics were never great, but there was never going to be a time that it was going to be a good moment for that. They should have definitely. I feel like they should have definitely switched up that storyline. I feel like the best way to done that would have been to just done a flashback moment that they went to the Savage Land when they went on a mission one time, and instead of just like when I was younger, when I was a girl, Mystique sent me to this old ass man in the Savage Land to train to use my powers. Like, I feel like that was more of but also that's a story of the time. Like honestly, like
Yeah,
let's
I
who
mean,
doesn't who didn't fall in love with their college professor and get married back in the day and
back
all
in the
that other
day, yeah,
stuff.
maybe, but
You know,
it's a little weird. all I know
Oh
is
no,
that
very much still.
all I know is if I'm Gambit, let's just say, and I'm really into a girl that's my age, and suddenly she's like, oh yeah, she used to date a guy 40 years older, and I gotta compete with. Not only is he
Who
old,
can touch her?
not only yeah, he can touch. He's old. He can touch her, but also he does look buff and handsome. Great, good for him. But also,
Right.
I don't want to compete with that. That's what. Why would I?
Real talk.
What?
Real
It's hard
talk.
enough as is dealing with like
Right.
our age range. Can you imagine?
Yeah. This man know what he want, and he's not afraid to take it. And like
That's
I
the
said,
problem
he
with
can touch
Magneto.
you.
Come on.
That's the problem. Yeah.
But
One thing that Magneto will always have is audacity, and you can only appreciate it.
Magneto was not right stealing my girl. That's
But he had a point.
yeah, asterisk. I get it though.
Asterix.
You know, I get it though. We
Ooh,
get a scene where I thought this was funny. So there's a whole scene where in episode 9 where like Cable's taken over by Sinister, which I saw coming.
yeah.
That is, I don't know if that's happened in the comics, like in the
I
old,
was just gonna say
or whether
that.
that's
Like,
like a
I think it.
new like Krakoan age thing. Is that a new Krakoan age thing?
No, no, but I wish that that was a Krakoan nation. But no, I think no, he's that was apparently because apparently this storyline has been going on like since the Black Orphan thing because there was one point where he controlled Charles Xavier and he controlled Cyclops.
Yeah,
But I
not
don't
Black
know if
Orphan. It
there's
was
a
called something
story.
else, right?
No, I think it was Black or shit, I think it was the Black
Yeah,
Orphan project.
but anyway, so continue. Sorry.
But yeah, but ooh, what was I saying? I just had a brain fart, guys.
Oh, he's
Um,
controlled people before.
yeah, he's controlled people before, but like I don't think he's actually taken over Nathan. Like, and there's probably I know there's a storyline of it, but I think maybe it's an alternate universe. But like, I'm surprised that that hasn't been a storyline, a more prominent storyline, if anything, because that was the whole like reason for Cable's birth was to be controlled by Sinister. You would think that would be a big storyline.
Black Womb. Was that what it was?
Black Womb Project. Oh my God,
Black
thank
Womb.
you.
I
That was
couldn't
gonna
find
really
it, but then
irritate
it
me.
triggered in my head, and I was like, oh yeah. So Cable
Amanda
fights
Mula.
Jean, and Cable, I guess, kills her, kind of, whatever.
Yeah, right.
And then she ends up at the bottom of the little lake, little pond. It's a little pond, like
It's a pine.
it's like the bottom of a waterfall, I think, on
Like a
whatever.
bay.
And so like, and then like she rises as the Phoenix, which I thought was the like that was the
Okay,
one
let's
scene in
talk
the
about
show
it.
that I had the most trouble with. Is like just suddenly
Yeah.
out of the blue, Jean Grey's like she gets her Phoenix powers back, and then afterwards she's like, "Oh yeah, the Phoenix left. By the way, she just like popped in just to do this one thing."
Yeah.
And it's like
I
it's
didn't care
very
for
Deus Ex
it.
Machina.
Yeah, kinda. I feel exactly that way. It felt a little bit climactic that it would just like be like that, and I don't know why, but I wanted her like psychic signature to be more fiery than just like the blue and then like little flames on it. I thought it was cute, but like
The
I
blue
feel
was
like
the
it wasn't.
water, right?
Yeah, like it was like her like for some reason her telepathic signature is like the light blue like
Yeah.
Charles's, but like they put like a little bit of fire on it, and I'm like, oh, that means it's the Phoenix. I'm like, no, I feel like y'all should definitely like take the time to like change the power signature with the Phoenix. I feel like that's something that we should have done, but the design looked cute though. I liked it. I would have liked her better in the Phoenix outfit, but it was still nice, I still liked it.
Charles' telepathic signature is yellow, I think, right?
No, that's Magneto's signature. His is blue, I think.
Huh. Oh, it is blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never understood Magneto's power signature being yellow. I thought it was always gonna be purple for some reason. I don't know why that throws me off too.
Yeah.
I just like secretly always wanted to be purple or like a burgundy.
I mean, at this point, it's like when the CW did the Flash. I don't know if you watched the Flash, where all the speedsters have different
Yeah, I loved
colors,
it.
and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess.
I guess, right.
When Phoenix, EJ Play Games says, I thought it was interesting. I never knew that they were in love in the comics, but I like Gambit and Rogue. I wish we got more of them. Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
were in love in the comics in a way, but at that point, Magneto had been de-aged into a baby and then aged up into his prime. So, like,
Yeah.
and like, who knows whether, like, I don't know whether you can, like, bring in, like, actual ethics when somebody's been de-aged and then aged up and then somebody's
Right.
hyper-aged and
What is the
whatever.
limit
Like,
at that point? You know what I
you know?
mean?
But, I don't know. It's interesting there.
That's always the fight, like with like characters like on
Wolverine?
the Eternals, Sprite. Oh yeah, him too. Like, but Sprite is one of those big ones though.
Oh, yeah.
Like who was a million years old, but has a child, the body of a child. Is it creepy or is it like it's still creepy? Like
So,
there's
well, the thing about Sprite is that, and I'm not here to defend anything real world or anything.
right, exactly.
First things first, Sprite is played by a child, like an actual child
Facts.
actress, right? So, like, it's problematic in that sense. So
Hmm.
obviously they can't explore that in the MCU. But
Yeah,
in the comics, let's just say, it's more akin to Sprite being a little person, right?
yeah,
Like,
kind of. Yeah,
little people are people too, and adult little people are adults. So
right, exactly.
you can have a relationship with an adult little person, and
Right.
although our brains are doing gymnastics on trying to, like, figure out how
Yeah,
that works with us and our morality,
exactly.
like, it's okay. So Sprite being forever young, I still think that, like, Sprite would be like a millennia old, you
Oh, for
know,
sure,
unless
for sure.
unless
Totally
Sprite
gross.
was built to, like, chemically and mentally be young, and then it's a
Right.
weird sort of problem.
Yeah.
That's another problem.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know. So whatever. That's real world ethics. Who's to
Right,
say?
right. That's a
Um,
problem for another day.
yeah.
But can we talk about these fights in this though?
Yeah, well, I
The
wanted to
fights.
before we get to the fights. I mean, I just
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to bring up Sinister because we're talking about Phoenix, and when Phoenix brings Sinister up and
Yes.
starts peeling the DNA,
That's perfect. That's a perfect segue because I was going to bring up that fight actually.
yeah,
Yeah, that was one of the
and
big
he's like,
fights I was going to
"I'm
bring
so
up.
ugly."
Yes.
Oh no!
Yes. I'm a gremlin, and
Like,
I love
no,
it.
show me my face. Like, it was weird, like a Disney movie. It was just like, no, like,
Yes.
what? He's not the most like, he is vain, but I don't know whether he's vain for
No,
his
very.
face.
No, he is.
Is
Yeah.
he?
I like. Yeah, he's very vain. Like he thinks he's one of the most beautiful creatures. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it made sense, and also, but also you could tell that it was more so the genetic stuff that she took away from him. Like she took everything, and I
Yeah.
thought she was gonna like kill him
I
right
thought he
then. I
was
was
gonna
like,
disappear into a husk, like,
yes,
and like just dust away.
and I was okay. I was okay with Jean Grey being a murderer. Like I was totally fine with Jean Grey being a murderer for this. Like
There's nothing
she's already
redeemable about Mr. Sinister.
exactly
Like,
like
even more so than Bastion. Bastion at least loves his mom,
exactly like
whatever way you want to say that, but
sinister,
like,
right?
Sinister doesn't love anyone.
Yeah,
This version.
Sinister literally right. I'm about to say, the only thing he loved was his wife and kid, and then they died with hundreds of years, like years ago. So
Yeah.
that's it. All he has is Sinister, and like that.
And
But
he's
that
working
fight
with
with
Nazis. Like, come on.
yeah, like the fact that like when you literally reference one of the most known Nazi doctors, and
Yeah.
you're just yeah, you can't be redeemed in my eyes when you're just
Right.
you know when you're just science partners with them.
It's
But
it's like when Red Skull in the comics has been like, "Oh, I didn't follow Hitler. Hitler was an idiot.
yes,
Hitler was an idiot. He didn't go far enough." Like, then like, yeah, Red Skull's a piece of shit. And like
right, right,
like
right.
you're meant to be like, "Oh, you don't follow Hitler, so you're not a Nazi." Oh, no, you're worse. You want it what?
Okay, right. Oh, you're actually worse than a Nazi. Okay, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
You know,
I get it.
you
Uh,
are one, but you would have been smarter. I don't know.
right,
Um
right.
yeah, the fight
Like
scenes though. I mean,
Yeah.
which fight scene stood out to you?
Um, the big one, definitely one of the first big ones was definitely the Jean Grey and Sinister fight. Actually,
Hmm.
didn't I've never seen Sinister use his powers or or any kind of fighting technique in anything. And this was a good moment where we get to like actually see him like use some kind of shadow power that he had
Yeah,
and like fight Jean Grey like to a almost standstill kind of, and like it was kind of a cool moment to see. Um that one and one of the big ones I think the one was Sarah was talking about the fight with Jubilee and the others.
yeah,
Because I like a fight where I'm like Sarah. I like a fight where the underdogs end up taking it, and the fact that we get this big fight with Bastion with not and it doesn't have the Omegas in it. It's not Jean, Storm, or Magneto like fighting them, like
yeah,
which of course they end up doing later. But like we get this moment of like seeing the underdogs take care of business. Like I do like a moment where we get to see like, oh, you don't have to be an Omega to be able to fight. And that's of course one of the things that the X-Men stand on. Like you don't have to be the most powerful. You don't have to be, the greatest at what you do, the best at what you do. You just have to be, willing to want to fight and work with your team. And that's exactly what that whole little moment did. It kind of just like gave people like Sunspot, and I mean of course Rogue was there, but they gave like people like Sunspot and Jubilee like their chance to shine and like put their own against him. And
yeah,
then we get the little iconic moment of Sunspot giving himself his name and like being Sunspot. I thought that
yeah,
was a good little moment.
yeah. I think there's a couple of things. It's like X-Men specifically, and it's very interesting because you could take it at face value, but I'm going to take it a layer further. X-Men is
Mhm.
all about knowing when to fight, knowing when to talk, knowing when to love, knowing
Yes.
when to try to understand, knowing when to forgive, right? Like X-Men is all about that. They don't need to do that for
Right.
everybody, but that is what they do. My extra layer is that
Exactly.
I think that is the minority experience. That is the
Yes.
marginalized
Exactly.
community experience where you can't just go in, guns blazing. You have to
Right.
pick and choose your battles. You got to know when to forgive. You got to try to understand that
Right. I would say you have to be willing to
the
understand.
majority
Right.
of people don't have to do that. Like they don't have to understand technically,
Yes.
you know?
Exactly. And I think that's the big thing about them. Like you don't have like the big thing is you don't have to understand where they're coming from, but you have to at least try to see it from a different point of view. And I think that's where the X-Men differ in a lot of things. They're willing to see and try to meet people where they're at. And I think that's really yeah, you explained it perfectly. They are the minority metaphor.
Right. The majority, any majority of people, like
Hmm.
in whatever aspect,
Right.
you don't need you have the luxury of not having to understand.
Right.
Let's just say heteronormativity, right? That's like
Right.
me speaking from my experience. I have to push myself to think outside of a heteronormative point of view
Right.
because that's what I know, and society keeps up with that. Like society works
Yes.
works very hard to be heteronormative, and
Right.
so it's kind of like that. It's like people who celebrate Christmas, you know, don't realize that like other people's religious holidays aren't celebrated to the degree of Christmas.
Exactly.
Like
I'm so sorry for my absence. Are we talking about Morph being in love with Wolverine?
let's get to
Not
that.
yet, but we will.
Let's
Let's
Oh, I
do
thought
it.
that's what.
I'm
let's
totally
no
here
let's
for
let's
it.
touch on that because we have to. Here's the
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, heteronormative. Let's I'm gonna
that's a
give it
perfect
to you
segue,
two, but
actually. Yes.
I'm gonna work my magic segue into this. So with heteronormativity, we view certain things, me
Hmm.
specifically, and my hetero
Straight
brothers,
counterparts.
my hetero brothers and sisters out there, unite. No, don't. I don't know. What are you doing? No. Why are we
Hetero-
mobilizing? Why are we
Heteros of
mobilizing?
Earth
So,
unite.
Oh no,
no.
I'm turning into an Avenger. Like, why do we need to?
That's
do that?
hilarious.
Okay. Anyway, my point being
God.
is that how many people watched and it's so dumb because I saw this and I was like, come on, guys. The idea that Morph turns into Jean to give Wolverine, I love you, blah, blah, blah.
Sweetie.
People online are like, no, that's just like him being a bro, dude. I'm like, no, that what?
Right.
No, that
That's
is
not.
you are in straight.
I
You are
wanted to
not only in
scream at the
denial for these
screen.
characters, you are probably in denial of things that have happened in your life. And I'm not using it as
All
a
right.
dig at you, like I'm not you, but like people out there who are like, yeah,
Right.
like we could do we could do stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it
Right.
up.
I was like,
you know.
is that what bros do? Would a bro turn themselves into someone else to profess love? Yeah, I think the explanation that he was
Not the
doing
bros I
it
hang out with.
like is that a thing? I'm sorry, do straight bros turn into like it's like it's like when Buck
Right.
puts on a wig type thing.
Right. Do you pretend to be your friend's lover to make them feel better? No. I don't think that's a thing that regular straight friends do for one another. I don't think Brett's doing that for Carl for Carl up the street. It's crazy. Like,
And also he's not conscious, right? Like there's no that's not like that's
mhm.
mostly for more for
Okay.
Morph than it is for Wolverine.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank
Like
you.
um
That's exactly what it was.
he's
I
not,
was like,
even if
this
he
feels
is
like a
conscious,
more
he's
of a
not
you
going to
problem.
remember this, right? So
All
yeah,
right.
I feel like and going back to I did steal this from someone on the internet because I heard it today. Like going back to the first Sinister like nightmare scene, he's like
Okay.
hitting
Thank
on him in
you.
the shower, and then his nightmare is that Wolverine says like, "Oh, everything's a joke. Like you can't let us see
Right.
who
You
you
think
really
I
are,"
don't
type of
know?
thing. And I'm like, okay, we're come on now. But
Okay.
it's such a beautiful moment,
It
and it's
is.
like if you can, like, I guess it can still be a beautiful moment if you're putting Morph in the closet. If you're like, no, he was just being a bro, and
Yeah.
that's what bros do for bros. Like it could still that's still a sweet interpretation of
Right.
it.
It very much
Um,
is.
I just think it's uh objectively wrong, like from the mouth of the person who wrote it.
Like
Yeah.
I think it depends on what it is or like what kind of story they're going to tell because it falls under like especially with it because like this is you could tell this is literally for morph but but for me it kind of feels like they're leading into a story of unrequited love kind of like where like morph may feel something morph feel obviously and clearly feel something about Wolverine that isn't reciprocated won't be reciprocated in a certain way which I think will be a good way to go about it because I think it's not many times we get an unrequited love kind of story especially and it's so in unrequited love stories and let's be honest in gay communities it's very much a thing it's kind of a rite of passage you're going to end up falling in love with one of your straight friends or like you're going to end up like misinterpreting some like feeling for someone else and it's just something that happens and I feel like that's a good story to tell especially with morph I think that it's I mean it's not a stretch to see that that they can be gender queer or like especially gender fluid especially when it comes to them being a morph so I think that would be a good story because they've tried to tell that story like in the comics like with Richter and Shatterstar that was they weren't supposed to be lovers they were supposed to be Shatterstar was supposed to be confused about his sexuality and Richter was supposed to be straight and then they were going to have a whole conversation about that and just become friends but then people ended up liking them and they were like oh gay it is
They had
cool
a conversation. They had a conversation that they were like, "No, we're straight, right?" And then the
right
more they talked
but
through it, they
right let's just
they're
try
like,
things out see
"Huh."
how it goes like
It
let's
reminds
just
me. It
hop in the
reminds me
room
of
see
The
what happens
Office where Michael is like, is
you
wait, Oscar
I
is
know
gay?
exactly what episode
Could Oscar is gay and Angela's probably a lesbian. Could they be in a gay relationship?
In a gay relationship together? Yes.
um,
That that's hilarious.
but
Yes.
like, so for me, it's like I can see the unrequited love. I don't think there's anything, and it's sad because I think Morph deserves happiness, right?
I do too. Yeah.
And I don't think that happiness is coming from Wolverine. It's not. It's
Facts.
Wolverine. I'm not even saying that Wolverine is 100% straight, which he could be. That's fine.
Right.
I'm just saying that like Morph is not the person for Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know,
That
Wolverine is more likely to get into the thruple situation, and
right.
with Cyclops and Gray,
Right.
because
And he's already struggling with the person that he actually likes. So, you know.
right. I mean, we could say that like Wolverine's a ladies' man, but Wolverine is you know, has Wolverine closed with Jean yet? like
You know, at this point, yeah. Like, have they, closed the deal at least once or
no,
twice,
no. So
besides the
and
kiss?
that's fine, that's fine. But like, Wolverine is both too
Beautiful
good
gowns,
and too
beautiful
bad.
gowns.
You know?
Right. Yeah, very true. Very, very true. Like and but to go into like relationships though in this show,
Yeah.
I absolutely love, like I said before in the beginning, the Jean and Storm relationships. The way that they have cultivated their friendship in this, it has been amazing. The we have been getting good little Jean and Storm moments throughout, but the last one, of course, being in episode 9, which was one of my favorite like quoted lines when they were together and they finally get to meet each other. But right before they go out and separate from Blue and Gold team, um they say to each other, Storm tells her, no, Jean tells her, make them weather your mind, and what was it? Oh, I trashed that.
Mind
And
mind your weather.
yeah.
Yes, make them
Yeah,
mind
make
your
them mind
weather,
your
sister.
weather.
And yep, and may they weather your mind. I love that, and I was like, I need that to be a saying that they always do anytime they go on a mission now.
That's like it's like the verbal equivalent of like a secret handshake. Like
That's
that's like the
exactly what it
verbal
was.
equivalent of
That's
like
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
yeah.
I loved every moment
I
of
do
it.
like that. By the way, I was just thinking to myself, because I've been going through my head this whole conversation, trying to figure out who Morph should get with and have like an actual romantic relationship with. Because if I'm using Morph's attraction towards Wolverine, but I don't want to just put in like a Wolverine clone, like, or not clone, but like
Right.
Wild Child. Like I wouldn't put like
Oh
Wild Child
God.
with Morph
Don't
just
do that to
because
Morph.
Wild
Right.
Child's very feral. Sarah, Wild Child is kind of like Wolverine, just feral and like has claws and teeth. Like it's just a
If him and Sabretooth had a baby, that would be him. Yeah.
if
I was like Beast. I was looking. I'm
like
just
a
looking at the picture behind
skinnier,
you.
a
They got the
skinnier,
same.
shorter Wolverine, like very animal, like with long
He
blonde
looks
hair.
a lot like Sabretooth. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Juggernaut.
Huh.
Because
You gotta
Juggernaut,
write the fic.
it also, well, I don't
Write
know
the
whether
fanfic.
it's not
Right the time.
it's not in, I don't know whether it's in my wheelhouse. But
Like
but like Juggernaut, I think has that like tough edge that Wolverine has, but Juggernaut's
Yeah.
also in the closet. So like
true.
so Juggernaut and
Like
Morph getting together, I could see that being good
honestly,
for both
it
of them.
could work.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Like him and Dakin would I'm sorry, Morph and Dakin would actually work. They would actually be kind of
That would just
it would be
seem like
cute
it's
enough.
Wolverine's son, and like why
You know
like
what?
Morph, you know, just kind of getting with Wolverine's
Facts.
son.
Kind of
I
just
don't
getting
know.
with the whatever comes next. Yeah,
Yeah.
the constellation prize. I feel that. You're right. You're right.
It's kind of like this. It's like when we date in real life, like the idea that like you only date people like Wolverine is
Yeah.
weird. Like people who have to be very much like Wolverine, it seems like
Right.
you're putting an image on. But if you're like the qualities that Wolverine has can come in many different shapes and sizes, I feel like you're attracted to those qualities as opposed
What
to
about
I need
Deadpool?
a man that has claws and wild hair.
Must have claws.
Must
Touche.
have claws.
Touche.
You know?
Oh, what about Deadpool? I can see them at
Oh.
least like having like hooking up at least. Like
Deadpool. I mean, it also helps that Morph kind of looks like Deadpool's mask without, like, because Morph doesn't have
oh
like
my God,
features.
kind of. I hate that. Why'd you say that?
It looks just like
Actually, never.
if you drew Deadpool's eyes on it.
Yeah,
But actually,
but
yeah,
I feel like they would
Deadpool and
have a
Morph.
lot of fun. Like just like I feel like he would get morphed to transform into a bunch of different things during
I was gonna
the
say
heat of the
that.
moment.
But I don't know whether it would be sexual or whether it would just be fun. Like he'd be like, "Can you
Both,
turn into Bob Barker?"
easily both with them.
Like
With
turn
those
into
two,
Bob
it's both.
Barker.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
they're gonna try some things. They're
do
gonna definitely
Regis
try some
and
things.
Kathy Lee. You know,
I feel
like
like Deadpool, like that pairing would turn it into like a challenge, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
let's see. Like, oh, you love me, you're attracted to me. What about Bob Barker? What
What
about
about this one?
like?
Right? I can definitely see them like cosplaying as each other's love. Like I think they will find it hilarious to like dress up as Wolverine and dress up as Jean Grey and have sex. I think that they would definitely do that, like as a joke. Like they would
so
definitely do that.
so just I'm really into this just because I really want Morph to be happy because Morph has
Yes.
suffered for so long and Morph is trying to
Right?
find happiness with Wolverine. But I think that
Yeah. It's just not gonna
if
happen.
Morph
They're
had
just
a
not into you.
fun relationship where Morph learned about themselves through Deadpool, great, and
Yes.
then settled down with Juggernaut. I'm just saying,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you know?
Deadpool's never going to be Endgame.
No.
He's just a ride to on the journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know,
But I
good
do
for
feel
them.
like he could help more find out
For
who
sure.
they
In a
are,
lot of
right?
ways,
Yeah.
actually, I feel like
Now I
they would be a
want
real
to.
good
Now
team
I
together.
want to read it.
I'm like, damn, I kind of want a mini series, kind of just like
Here's the thing,
of them
Sarah.
going on some kind of crazy antics.
Morph doesn't really exist in the comics.
He
Mm.
doesn't.
Like Morph
They
exists
don't.
in
Sorry.
Exiles. You read
Hmm.
Exiles, right? The first.
Yeah, Exiles. Yeah, that's where they're most prominent
I
at.
gave Sarah Exiles the first
Yeah, I
volume of it,
assumed
right?
Morph was prominent
Ooh.
because he's in one of the 5 books I got.
Yeah.
One of the
Oh
So
best ones I
no!
but
think is the
no,
Extreme X-Men.
Morph very specifically is not a main timeline character.
Right.
There's a character that's like Morph in the early days of X-Men comics called Changeling, who
Oh
turns
my
into
God.
Xavier just to
Throwback.
die.
Throwback. Changeling.
Like
God.
but then in the Age of Apocalypse universe, which is an alternate timeline, I believe it's the same
Hmm.
character as Changeling,
Yeah.
but in this timeline, it turns into the featureless kind of Morph that we know from
Right.
this series and from Exiles. So that's
Hmm.
a Morph that became almost Plastic Man in a way, because of living in a
Kinda.
post-apocalyptic world.
Kinda actually.
Anyway, that's
Hmm.
a side thing, but Morph would be cool. Um, okay, so we're gonna there are things we got to bring up before we end. Um, what are the big things that we got to do before we end? I'm trying to think of like
Right. I'm trying to think of what are big things happen because there was a lot. Like let's be honest. Like there oh, what about the fact of Cable finding out we find out how many times Cable came back to try to
200,
stop
right?
everything.
100.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what would you do? Like, and I'm loving I'm loving these little that people are solidifying like fixed points, like the canon events, if you will,
Mm.
like on Into the Spider Verse. Like I like the concept of it, but
I
it is
don't
still
like it because I also think that Into the Spider Verse is proving that there isn't canon points. Like they're not going to kill his father. Like they're not going to kill Miles' father in the third Spider Verse movie. Like they're not. They're
right.
going to show that there's a way to, instead of blindly following this like rule that you
Right.
set, there is a way to, like, it isn't a lose-lose situation. And I think that's what the third Spider-Verse is. So I don't believe in canon
Yeah.
events. I don't believe in it because we also have seen worlds without the same canon events. Like
I love that you're not following for the Miguel O'Hara propaganda. You're like,
no.
Right.
Miguel
Yeah.
O'Hara,
I don't adhere to it
unlike
either.
Magneto, Miguel O'Hara does not have good points sometimes.
He doesn't.
No.
He's a bitch.
I loved that detail of it being 200 times because it's like I haven't tried to do anything 200 times. Like, and the
Okay.
emotional damage of that happening every time It reminds me very much
Right.
of just the
Groundhog
Doctor
Day?
Who the Doctor Who episode Heaven
Mm.
Sent, where he's like stuck in the loop for like a billion years. Um
Mm.
and of course Loki, when he was recently stuck in a loop of trying to fix something. I just
Mhm.
eat
Mhm.
that shit up. I
Yeah.
love that like fighting against like how
Yes.
many times
Inevitability.
will Cable do it? Like, will he
Right.
keep doing it forever? Will he get to 700 times? Right? Is he ever
That.
going to stop trying to fix it? And that's such an interesting question.
I think the problem is that Cable isn't smart. If
Mm-mm.
Cable, I'm sure if Cable went back in time and enlisted Beast and Forge, he could then create a sort of map of the
Right.
timeline, creating that. But he doesn't want to mess with the timeline that much. But like, he would have to go back not to the night of the gala. He just keeps like he needs to go back further. So
Exactly.
I don't know. I do want to shout out EJ Play Games for saying, "Would you like to see Hulk versus Wolverine in a future episode?"
Hmm.
Me personally,
No, I'm
we
okay.
already got a Hulk versus Wolverine
We've seen enough.
straight to DVD animated movie
Yeah,
that I thought was really good. I thought that was
it was
great.
cute.
I would like to see Wolverine match up against somebody we've never seen him match up against. Like let's
Hmm.
see a Wolverine versus Iron Man. If you're gonna bring in an Avenger, you know,
Right.
let's. I mean, if we're doing AVX, if we're doing Avenger versus X-Men, then like yeah, let's pair some up that
Right.
would be fun to kind of to make set pieces around. But before I remember what I want to do. I want to talk about cameos, the cameos of this episode, and I also want to talk
Yes.
about the final, where this is leading and kind of those final scenes. The cameos, we got a bunch of cameos. Sarah,
Oh
did you
yeah.
catch them all?
I blacked out after Daredevil because I was so happy. So I missed like the next 30 seconds of them after Daredevil because I'm always so delighted to
Oh
see
yeah.
Daredevil.
We had
Yeah,
Um,
some deep cuts in there.
yeah.
we so,
Like
Peter Parker of Mary Jane and Flash.
yeah, but
Almost a Flash
also
Gordon.
we
That's not fun.
didn't like at first glance. I didn't realize what that meant. So Peter Parker and MJ and Flash Thompson, because this takes place after the events of the Spider-Man animated series. I'm trying to work the timeline in my head. That's why I look confused. Because Spider-Man the animated series ended January 31st, 1998, but I guess it doesn't. But it's still, I don't know. Whatever. The point being is, Mary Jane is back and she's not lost in the time stream or whatever, in the multiverse or whatever she was lost in. So like we get MJ back is kind of the. I didn't realize that until I got home because I saw it out. I saw this episode.
I didn't see MJ. Yeah.
But like I was like, oh, that's what it means. It means that at the end of Spider-Man the animated series, where he's like, let's go find MJ, he finds MJ, and she's still wearing the same damn outfit. What is going on with that? It's a turtleneck with like a vest on top.
It's a wardrobe staple. It's you can
My baby
wear
MJ
it.
love him. I
No.
love a turtleneck.
This is
I have a cardigan that I wear. I teach online, and so it's once a week that I have my live videos with students, and when I watch the recordings back, I'm like, man, I am wearing that sweater in a lot of these videos. I gotta put a new cardigan in rotation. It is embarrassing. So I understand MJ here.
MJ though. MJ is supposed to be like fashionable and stuff, right? It just seems
wow.
No, MJ's like
Facts.
right. I'm not saying about Sarah.
No, she's a model.
Re-wearing the sweater, but I'm just saying that like MJ's like idea of like what to wear seems to me like her aunt told her like, hey, you need to put on more clothes before you leave. Put a turtleneck on, and then on top of that, put a sweater vest on before you leave my house. You know, you're gonna go see that Parker boy. You can't have your boobies all over the place.
Not the Parker boy.
What happens if there's a supervillain fight out in the street and like your shirt gets ripped?
Yeah.
Think about
honestly,
modesty.
I won't let my child go nowhere in New York if we lived in the Marvel universe. Like you are not to go. You are not to go out of this house. Like you're getting homeschooled. Like it's to the point where I would be scared to take you to school. Like there's no safe place in New York.
This reminds me of my mom like when I first like when I was young and into like driving myself, she's like, you should always wear shoes when you go out because you can't wear like flip-flops, and then what if you get into a car accident and now you're in flip-flops on the side of the road? Like, or you can't go barefoot, like you can't do all these things. You gotta be proper, which also means wear clean underwear when you go out, because if you get into an accident and the ambulance has to take your pants off, you got to have clean underwear. So it's this idea of
that
like
messed me up.
in the Marvel universe, like it would be like, yeah, clean underwear all the time. Everything has to be perfect because you're gonna go out there and the Hulk is gonna throw a car. It's gonna explode and rip your pants off, and you better have clean undies because everybody's gonna see your.
You better hope you didn't shit yourself with Pumping Impact, guys.
Yeah, every day with a full face of makeup in my best look, being like, I hope no criminals want to steal
Okay.
here in
This might be the
Hell's
day
Kitchen.
I die, but I'm gonna look fucking fantastic.
Wait, Sarah, are you going there to pick up Matt Murdock?
Yeah, I'm going there with like cash in my hands, my best outfit, into Hell's Kitchen, being like, I sure hope no criminals. I hope police will rescue me.
No. That gets me thinking of like, oh no, how much trouble I would get in just trying to be like, Emma, please, I gotta be a mutant. Let me in. Like, I know where the Xavier Institute is. Like, please just let me in.
Like, you're like, look, I can cross my eyes so good.
I can wiggle my ears,
Right. I promise you, I have the power of intuition.
Oh no. I just also realized how much I would be simping on all the ex-ladies' Instagrams, because they would have like Instagrams and I'd be like, oh.
Facts.
Like, you'd be commenting the hearts, like, I love it, Queen. Love the new costume on like every post.
Like every Instagram story, fire.
Right,
the fire thing. I'm
one
out
of the
here.
First taps.
I'm out here just being a fan.
You're gonna be like on one of those Reddit, am I the asshole? You like get and she's like, am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend he can't fire react to all of Storm's Instagram stories?
My queen.
He says that he loves me, but he comments on Storm's
hashtag my queen.
My queen every time.
Every post. Hashtag my queen.
If it's not a queen, he's like, it's his goddess. I don't know what to do.
What am I?
Right.
You're a flat scan. So are
you're
you?
A flat scan.
It's like I am too. Like, oh. Yeah, but you're not
That's
one of the good
best
ones.
name for humans ever.
So we get a lot of cameos. We get Cloak and Dagger, who I definitely weren't expecting to see.
Right at all.
Because I don't think they showed up.
They've never.
Have
yeah, I was
going to say,
have they never been animated?
Were they in Spider-Man? Or no?
They may have been in. Maybe they were in Spider-Man. I don't know. I feel like they would be more likely to show up there than anywhere else.
Yeah.
But like, we get other people like Psylocke, North Star, Aurora.
Yeah, Psylocke's just hanging out with Alpha Flight for some reason.
Right. I thought that was crazy. I thought it was just me. I was like, this doesn't feel right. But okay, we're here.
Yeah, she had as many lines in the cameo as she had in X-Men Apocalypse.
She had more lines. She had more lines in X-Men.
Like 3 lines.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, and
Sorry,
I think
I'll
the
stop,
person that was with I think the person who was with them, I still think it was Frenzy. The black girl who was with them, I think that was Frenzy.
No, it's Cypher. Or yes, not Cypher, Cyber. That's what people said.
Are you sure that's Cypher?
Not Cypher, Cyber.
No, her name is Cypher. I know which one you're talking about. The black girl.
Cypher is Doug Ramsey. Oh no, you're right.
They're both named Cypher.
Oh yeah, you're right. Not
it's
Cyber.
Crazy, yeah.
Cyber is that big guy. Cypher?
Yeah, she can do a bunch of different things. Like she's like Kitty Pryde and Invisible Woman all together, put into one person.
How is it spelled? How's Cypher?
Cipher.
That's crazy because there's Cypher.
The right way.
Come on.
Right. Yeah, he spells.
Yeah, it is Cypher.
Yeah.
Cipher.
Mm-hmm.
Who is literally a character that made its first appearance in 2008.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Young X-Men.
wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she can like turn intangible and also go invisible, and also she can make people not hear her. both telepathically and like by her sound, which I'm like, that's a cool ass that's a
Like
cool ass thing
complete
that we need to
stealth.
be utilizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's complete stealth, exactly. She should be an X Force. Like I need her to be on X Force.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right.
We
But
get Daredevil, of course, Sarah's fave. You know.
right, you
We get
know,
Spider-Man.
they.
We get Captain America and Iron Man. We also get Silver Samurai.
Hmm.
Black Panther.
We get Black Panther.
Yep, Black
Two
Panther.
things of Black
Right.
Panther.
Him and T'Challa and T'Chaka.
I don't know whether T'Challa and T'Chaka.
We do get T'Chaka shows up in the UN meeting, but T'Challa shows up in the second
When he
one when
smashes the
everybody's
glass.
attacking. Right.
Is that T'Challa though?
Oh,
that's what I'm trying to say.
shit.
Is
Good
this in this
question.
universe? Has
Did
T'Chaka been the Black Panther?
facts.
And like, I wouldn't mind if in this continuity T'Challa hasn't stepped up to the role.
Yeah, I'm
That'd
totally
be
okay with that
cool,
actually.
You know?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that actually. That would be a good little moment.
Because if this is in the like MCU canon, that doesn't happen until Civil War, right?
Oh,
Right, but
yeah,
but
right.
that's different. Like MCU canon and
Yeah,
this canon.
in
is
this
like
year,
90s,
I'm saying
this
this
is like
one.
90s canon, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Right,
so it's kind of, they could do whatever they want.
Hmm.
But
right.
like,
You're right. You can still play with it.
I'm just saying there's no proof that saying that the Black Panther that broke the glass is T'Challa, when we explicitly hear T'Chaka
Touche.
lead the UN. Like, it could be both. It could be they're both, like, one is Black Panther and one leads Wakanda.
Right.
But
That
I
would
don't
be a
know.
cool little moment, but yeah, I would be okay if it's T'Chaka though. Like I would be okay if we get to meet T'Challa like as a new Black Panther
Yeah.
in this. I would be okay.
Yeah.
And who else do we get to see
We see the
in this?
Russian team. We see
The Crimson Guard, yeah.
yeah, the Crimson Guard. We see Dark Star, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
We see
Yep.
Omega Red. We see Crimson Dynamo. Is that
That's what his name was. That was irritating me. I
Yeah.
couldn't figure
Crimson
out.
Dynamo.
Crimson Dynamo?
Right.
So,
What a
like,
name.
The Russian Iron Man. Basically.
Yeah. I think that's the cameos. We got,
Yeah, that's
right?
all the cameos we get until like the end where they showed like the board of the X-Men of the mutants that are whatever.
So let's talk about the board, because obviously we see that there are two groups that disappear into the future, right? There is
Right.
Cyclops and Jean Grey, and they go into the future with Nathan and Mother Ascani, and then we see
Right.
Rogue, Nightcrawler, Magneto. Who else in the past in Egypt?
Kurt and Beast.
But we don't see
Yeah.
Storm and Wolverine anywhere? Is that
Right. They're
And
the
Mor-
only
and
ones who
Morph,
are
right?
missing. Right. Yeah. Storm, Magneto, and I'm sorry, Storm, Wolverine, and Morph are the only ones who are missing right now. But yeah, Rogue, Kurt, and Magneto, Professor, and Hank go to 3000 BC, which I think is going to be a crazy little. That's a crazy little dynamic to put. Two of your ex-lovers are stuck in the past with you. That's crazy. Like, and I kind of want to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
Like, who do you pick? Like,
I'm trying to find a good picture of this board, but
of all the people
know, I have
who
a
are in
bad
it,
one.
I put their names down because I couldn't find it.
Morph isn't in the future, is he? Or in the past? Is Morph in that team?
No, they haven't said what happens to Morph, Storm, or Wolverine. They are
Okay.
the only ones who we didn't get to see what happened to.
Right, but then Cable, it says AWOL. So according to Forge's board that takes place 6 months into the future, we have all the X-Men being missing, presumed dead, but we also have Archangel missing, presumed dead, which is weird because he didn't appear at all.
Which I thought was weird.
Okay,
Right.
cool. It's like, why do we care?
Maybe he's been missing since like before.
Yeah, maybe. We also have, Morph is missing, presumed dead. So is Storm. And then we have Quicksilver and Scarlet, which are off-world, which I think they're off-world for Avengers business.
World.
Mm-hmm.
It would only make sense.
Yeah.
But,
I'm just glad they're on the board.
yeah. But who are the X-Men that are available?
Dust, Colossus, Magic,
Havoc, Iceman, Exodus.
Yes,
Iceman, Kitty Pryde, or Shadowcat.
Yeah, Emma Frost. I think that's going to be the next team. Like, I think they're gonna put a second team together that'll operate while the X-Men are gone. I wouldn't mind in the next season if you guys want to talk about what we want in the next season, but like I wouldn't mind a whole new team so we can get to know some like new characters while the team that we know and love are stuck in the future or the past or whatever. You know what I mean? You guys there? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would also be okay with that because I don't,
I want
I don't
more
know any of
people
these
to
people.
know more X-Men characters, right? Like
Yeah.
I need that. Aaron, I think you're on mute.
I think there's also like there's so many little Easter eggs and cameos
Uh-huh.
that I don't think they would show this board just to be like, here's some more X-Men you might know, right? It seems like it makes more sense that it would be setting up for season 2 that you're going to get to know these people.
Right. So like, I mean, even counting, we have Colossus, Iceman, Havoc, Exodus, Dust, Magic, Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost. That's 8 people. And I'm sure we're not going to get all 8 people to join the team. Aaron, can you talk? No, you're cut
I'm back.
Okay, there,
I'm back.
there,
Hear me? There you go.
And so, I wouldn't be surprised if all these people except for Exodus join.
Yeah. I'm about to say, I think everybody except for Exodus has a chance of coming in there. But honestly, I can see. I wouldn't hate an Exodus moment. Like we don't. I think that would be a cool little random little person to put into the X-Men. But he's overpowered though. I feel like we don't need him.
He's OP.
Yeah.
Sarah doesn't know. Does Sarah know?
I don't know.
Ooh.
So Exodus is from like this like Elizabethan England or something, right? Like he's from like old England.
He's from France,
old
France,
France.
kind of, yeah.
Oh,
Because his name
no.
is
Yeah, not Elizabethan. Like, was he like a prophet or something?
Yeah, so he used to be a prophet, and he used to like follow behind Jesus, who they call the Nazarene mutant. He used to be like basically,
somehow I
yeah.
don't think that's going to make it in.
So part of the thing is that like, should we believe Exodus or not? Like on some of these things, like
Right.
Exodus is also like very devout mutant.
He's from
Christian.
medieval France.
Yeah, so like he's born in the 12th century. He didn't walk with Jesus. He heard about Jesus, right?
Right.
He talks about
Right.
Jesus as if he was there, but he wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't there. Like I think I don't know. Like in certain, like in the news stories, he references like things that he did. Like, so I'm like, maybe
he was born in 12th century France. So I don't know.
True though, yeah.
But like he kind of has like a mutant version of the Bible in his head. Like that's what he
literally,
believes.
yeah, in his head.
Like
yeah, like
that,
so. and I love that he quotes, like he uses Bible quotes and like just like inserts mutant things in them. I was like, okay, we see what you're doing here.
Yeah, I'm okay with Exodus not being on this team, but Havoc coming back because the X Factor team essentially, right? Havoc and Iceman. Are the in the original X-Men cartoon, they were on the X Factor team. So like Havoc and Iceman, and then bring in Dust, Magic, Shadowcat, and Emma. Oh, and Colossus.
Yeah, do you know what they should have put Polaris on that list? I feel like that would have been a cool little moment for to put them on with Iceman, Havoc, and all them, bring that team back.
Yeah.
Now, I think the big question is, what do you expect from this to lead into for next season?
I would love.
What are some predictions?
I don't know who brought them forward in time or back in time.
Yeah, true.
I think whatever was trying to bring the X-Men back in time is not the same thing that took Jean Grey and Cyclops forward in time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is there a clear-cut person that could have done that? Or because for me, when it happened, I was like, oh, it seems like that's just a thing that happened. Like they just did an explosion so big it shot them back in time.
Because
I think it is a outside influence. Some
yeah,
people
because
said
it
it could be
happened in the comics.
Immortus is the older Kang. So supposedly Immortus had appeared in the 1992 series. And there's something about Immortus. Yeah. So that Immortus has appeared before. I'm gonna look it up, but basically it could be Immortus, which is an older version of Kang. Yeah, Immortus appeared in like 4 X-Men episodes. When Apocalypse was kidnapping psychics to rule the timeline, Immortus, disguised as Bender, comes across Bishop. There's a whole episode on this. Immortus annoys Bishop. Immortus annoyed Bishop until he was able to help the X-Men stop Apocalypse. When Bishop was gone, he morphed into his true self and disappeared. That happens at the end of the last season.
That's a bananas sentence you just said.
Okay, thank you.
Trying to follow it in my brain, and I was like, okay.
I was like, carry the two. Like, first of all, a name Bender is crazy. Is Mind Bender maybe? Because the first thing I was like, Bender Rodriguez. Like, I don't.
Basically, Immortus appears in the series finale of the previous series.
Okay.
So the idea that like Immortus appears there and doesn't appear at all in this season might be pointing towards Immortus.
I would also love the like cosmic irony of being like, okay, MC Kang in the live action did not work out, but as a treat, Immortus.
As a cartoon.
In X-Men 97 season 2, like you feel it's a little Kang consolation prize.
I think it can work, right?
Which is weird because I don't like Immortus anyway. I don't know why he's an X-Men, but like, okay, I don't like it, but okay. Fine. I can't argue with what has already happened.
Right.
I just don't want.
It's happening. We're here. Let's accept it.
Yeah.
I have just heard that Apocalypse being a main figure means there's a way for Gambit to be back.
Oh, so in the final season, or not the final season, the final scene of this
post-credit episode.
In the post-credit scene, Apocalypse is on Genosha and he says so much death or whatever, right? And he picks up the card. So in the comics, Gambit gets brought. Well, he doesn't get brought back from the dead. Gambit's alive and then is whatever imbued upon by Apocalypse to become his Horseman of Death.
Right.
Sean Paul?
Yeah, right. That was a good little alarm for me. I don't.
Okay.
You know,
so yeah, that's how Gambit I think is coming back. That has to be how Gambit's coming back.
Yeah, it has to be because they can't. I don't think they're gonna do Krakoa already. So like, I feel like that's gonna be one of those. I feel like that's gonna be he's gonna be a Horseman for sure.
I do like that Gambit didn't come back in this season.
Yes.
I think it was one of those things where everyone was like, it's a comic books, like they never stay dead, like he'll be back. But I like that there's a path to him coming back, but they didn't make it happen in this episode.
Yes, immediately.
Or in this season. Yeah, immediately. Like, oh, wasn't that sad? So like
yeah.
I hate it when
you
they
knew
do that so
like
much.
They needed to have this death to push the story forward. And like they knew that they understood like you need to keep this like as a thing at least until next season and then bring him back. I feel like that was needed, like just like with like Xavier, like the whole thing, because for me honestly I like Dimithri, you said it before, I would have been fine if Xavier had just stayed dead and they just allowed us to get with the X-Men. But I still love the fact that they waited at least half the season to show Charles before they just threw him in and we were just going to be like, okay, so now the X-Men are following Charles again. I love the fact they gave us the time to really like have the X-Men go through their own shit and then I'm like, okay, yeah, oh yeah, Charles can come in too now, like, and still, and like not even, and not rule them, but just be there. You know what I mean?
I mean, just like I like how this season like didn't do so much with Wolverine. Like Wolverine was
Yes,
not the focus of all
and
these
Cyclops.
episodes. You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was really helpful for an entry
Yes.
level X-Men fan as well. Like I already know so much about Wolverine just from like the
Right.
political zeitgeist, right? So
Hmm.
the idea that you were able to give me so much more like about so many other X-Men. I have no
Yes.
idea where they're gonna go with season two, but like I will be there because I thought it was amazing. It did a great job of, I mean, for me, the 1-2 punch of the comics you recommended and lent me so kindly, Dimitri. The 1-2 punch of that and this season was like, okay, fully sold on the X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
And it feels like this is like an X-Men Renaissance, like
It
It's
is.
gearing up again. I
yeah.
would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Like I think they did a good job with like giving us so much in this, like packing so much in this season, but also leaving us wanting more and having so much question as to what could happen. Because let's be honest, the way they ended this season, they ended it really great, but they've also opened it up to like a lot of different possibilities when it comes to the storylines. Like the whole, like, because there's a strong possibility that we might get an onslaught moment. You know what I mean? Like we like there, and
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like there are certain things that they have geared us for next season that we don't have to worry about it being like, oh, is the can the second season be as good or beat the first season? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the second season's gonna be Cable and Apocalypse. I think that like we're in the future with young Nathan and we're in the past with
Hmm.
young and Sabanur, and
Hmm.
and we also have Apocalypse in the current day bringing back Gambit, and we also
Yep.
have Cable, I assume, somewhere in the current day, maybe, you know,
Hey, I think it'll
maybe
be
I
a.
don't know.
I think it'll be that too. Like I feel like it could be. I feel like it's gonna be like one of those part A, part B series seasons. Like I feel like the first part is definitely gonna be about them going through time, and especially with like the Gene and Scott stuff, I'm really excited to see because I was one of those people who read the Adventures of Scott and Gene, or the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, when they went in time to go raise Nathan and in the future, and like I'm really excited to see that being played out on the screen.
Yeah.
But also like I feel like it's going to lead into I feel like the first part will be a time traveling, but I think the second part is going to be like the X-Men in the
I
Outback
think it's
years
going to
of
be
the
both at
X-Men.
the same time. I think we're going to get we're going to get modern day stuff and then flash
Right.
forwards and flashbacks to the stories that are taking place there.
Yes. Yes. Facts. I definitely think it'll go to that. Like, but I feel like it'll. I feel like they might have two teams though. For some reason, I feel like it'll go into two teams,
I mean,
especially
I
with
don't know.
Forge's new team, and then with the new X-Men, the X-Men from the past coming back.
I mean, at that point, I would love for Forge to go off and do X Factor then. You know, like
I mean, facts.
you
Yeah.
know,
Big
but
facts.
we'll see how that goes. Also, I
Give
think
us
it's
an
worth
X-Men Blue and
pointing
Gold
out
moment.
this is the first time Shadowcat's been seen in this series.
Yes.
Shadowcat's never been seen in the series because of Pride
Yes.
of the X-Men pilot that came out before it. So, you
I am
know,
aggressively happy about that. Like she's always been one of my favorite point of view characters, and I can't wait to see what they do with her. I feel like they might try something new with her though. Like she might start off as Emma's student, than
probably.
the student, and I'm okay with that. Like I always want to see like what their dynamic would be if we get a chance to like see them like grow into each other
Yeah.
instead of Jubilee being the one to go over to Emma's class. I kind of want to see how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. As we're closing up this episode, I mean, obviously we can keep talking about X Men and whatnot, but like,
All day,
we do got
you
to
know.
wrap it up. But I want to thank you guys so much for coming on this episode and talking about episodes 9 and 10 and the future of X Men '97. Um, before we get going, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug, Aaron?
But of course, so you guys can catch me at King Krakoa on Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter. You can also find me on, I'm not on Instagram. On Instagram, you can find me at King of Thrones. I'm working on a new Instagram at the moment, so we'll see.
All right. All right.
But you can also catch my podcast as well. I do Life Friends podcasts.
All right. Sarah, what about you?
You can find me at Ms_Marauder. On TikTok and Instagram, way more active on Instagram than on TikTok. TikTok happens whenever we have time for it. We've got 2 big cosplay builds coming up. If you are an anime fan, we have a Dungeon Meshi cosplay build coming up. If you are a Dune fan, we have a tiny little still suit being made for my daughter, and a giant sandworm costume for me. So we got Anime Expo and San Diego Comic-Con coming up, so a couple of big builds for those. So you can watch the incredibly chaotic process of me making a giant sandworm costume for myself on the gram.
All right. Love to see it. And if anyone out there wants to follow me, you can follow me personally at This Is Dimithri. Just got done with my game show run, 20 episodes, and so now I'm working on what comes next. What's next for Dimithri. So we shall see. But if you are watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe you listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, or SoundCloud. If you're on TikTok and Instagram, you can find us at The Keeg Show on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook, Threads, Twitter, all that good stuff. At The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show. Pretty much wherever you can find The Keeg Show, which includes thekeegshow.com that we are retooling and rebuilding as we speak. This is the X-Men 97 After Show. We're talking about episodes 9 and 10. Tolerance's Extinction Parts 2 and 3. Now, this is the end of X-Men 97 as far as the season is concerned, but, hang tight. We will have the Acolyte After Show, which is the live-action Star Wars show that's coming out in like a month or so.
Excited.
We will have an after show for that as well. But generally speaking, we got the Comic Talk, where we talk about new comics that come out every single week. We have that every single week, every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we also have State of X, which is our monthly mutant catch-up. That is everything X-Men, X-News. That's a once-a-month show. And then we have the Keeg Talks on most weekends, so we have that. Anyway, there's a lot. Just follow us on TikTok and Instagram at The Keeg Show, to keep track of all that stuff. That's pretty much it. This has been a blast talking about X-Men, talking about X-Men 97. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Sarah, so much for being here. Oh, and before I forget, there was an Instagram story question, and I think we could just wrap this up real quick. Did you, from EJ Culture, did you think we might get Mutant Massacre or the Fall of Mutants in X-Men 97? Aaron, I think you.
Yes.
Did you expect that?
Just yes. I honestly kind of, I expected some kind of big mutant downfall, which ended up being Genosha, but like in my wildest dream, I think that could be a possible maybe season 2. Maybe I would be okay with.
There are more genocides to come.
There are more genocides to come.
That's what's sad
when it comes to mutants. That's crazy.
But
that's crazy to say, but yeah, they go through like at least 3 genocides,
right?
And that's being kind.
Yeah, Oh, hi, Evie.
Hold on, you have an important announcement for everyone.
What is it?
I know that symbol.
Best
she
in
won
show?
Best Show.
Best in Show. Good job.
Kids cosplay contest.
Very
nice.
Congratulations, Evelyn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're gonna get going, but it's nice seeing you, Evie.
Thanks.
For everyone out there, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been the X-Men 97 After Show, talking about episodes 9 and 10, and just what's to come. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
THEKEEG super fat.